So today I'll discuss the ECO-0550. So this is the three-stage geothermal control. So the majority of your systems out there, they usually won't be more than 3 stages. What we usually see is 2-stage plus a backup. So this way you can save some money by purchasing our ECO-0550 control over the previous geothermal control, which is the kind of the expandable ECO1000 control. Some of you might know that the CPU 500 boiler control, our previous one, did have geothermal capabilities within that control, but that was strictly a 2-stage geothermal and boiler control. So we've added an extra stage. We've made some changes to the new control, so it'll have a new user interface with 3-button interface. It's easy to program. It's got a new enclosure, updated display, really easy to program, and yeah, so that's kind of the main features for this control is ease of programming and competitively priced within the marketplace. So this is our new Eco control. It'll run your heat pumps or your chillers. It'll run your reversing valve. It can run a single tank or dual tank systems. So some of the features, it has outdoor reset on the hot and the cold tank, warm weather and cold weather shutdown. You can rotate on times or on cycles. So as an Eco control, this control can do everything that the ECO1000 can do. But what it does is it does up to 3 stages, and the ECO-0550 is not an expandable control, whereas the ECO1000 you can expand the stages with that control. So this has a multicolored backlit display. It gives you a visual on what the system is currently doing at that time. So yellow, the demand is satisfied. Red would mean a current heating demand. And blue, there is a cooling demand that is on. So with the new display, you'll see all of your system info without going through multiple screens. Your ECO1000, to see a system function, you would need to shift between 2 different screens. With this, you see all the information on the one screen. You would see things like your temperature and your targets. If you have a single or a dual tank system, this one's showing the dual tank, so you're reading the hot tank and the cold tank. It'll show if there's a heating or a cooling demand. It shows temperature for your current application along with the targets you've set up. It shows which heat pumps are on or off along with the backup and reversing valve. So a little bit in regards to the settings of the ECO-0550 that we'll get into. So this setting is used to configure your heat pump staging in your system. So number 1 is how many heat pumps do you have. This is where you'll choose 1, 2, or 3. Number 2 is your lag time, the time delay between the stages. Number 3 is your rotate time, the rotation between heat pumps, and that is in hours. And then number 4 is your rotate cycles. This setting is used to set the hot tank. So you can set it up with or without outdoor reset. So warm weather, number 1 is warm weather shutdown. Your temperature is set in which the control goes into warm weather shutdown. And, number 2 is your outdoor temperature. So this is showing without your outdoor reset. But if you did set it up, it would show your min and max tank temperatures if you choose it with outdoor reset. And number 3 is your hot tank differential. You'll set this temperature to be the desired tank differential. And number 4 is your tank target temperature. The control will target this temperature for heating. So this setting, you'll use it to set up the desired temperature in the cold tank when there is a cooling demand. So you can set it up once again with a with or without outdoor reset. So your first setting is cold weather shutdown, and that's just a temperature set when the control goes into cold weather shutdown. Number 2 is your outdoor temperature. This is your outdoor reset design calculation. Number 3 is your cold tank differential, and so this is your desired cold tank diff. And number 4 is your tank target temperature, so the control that the target will target this temperature in your cooling. So last in your tank setting option is the warm weather and the cold weather shutdown, the time setup. So uses a lag time between the cold weather and the warm weather shutdown. This just holds the control from going out from either until into either the hot or the cold tank or colder weather shutdown until the time you've set up is finished. And the time starts when the control hits a warm weather or cold weather shutdown. So this is beneficial for the shoulder seasons when the temperature swings are much larger during the day, so you'll need heating in the morning and cooling in the afternoon. So that's kind of what we come across mostly these days is doing the geothermal heating and cooling together. So this is your backup setting used to configure the backup boiler component in your system. So number 1 is your time. So this is the time delay between the heat pump stages and the backup boiler. And number 2 is your temperature. So set the temperature to the outdoor temperature that will allow the backup boiler to come on. And number 3 is your backup differential. And lastly, your priority setup in the ECO-0550. So the default is cold, which indicates it's a single tank setup. But if you do choose the hot tank, then this setup it's set up as a dual tank system. So with this diagram, it shows a two-stage setup with dual tanks. So you have a hot tank and a cold tank and a two-stage heat pump. So this application is a single tank application, 2 stages. So your two-stage heat pump and your hot and cold tank. This system setup is a single stage heat pump with a backup, so 2 stages in total. So this just kind of shows you your heat pump and then your backup and your reversing valves. And this shows a 2-stage with a backup, so it's your 3 stages of geothermal. So this is the main one that we kind of see out there. I'll quickly go through the ECO1000 just to show you the 2 differences between the control, so you kind of get more of an idea of which one you'll choose. So obviously the ECO1000, that was our first geothermal control. This came into the market back in 2007, so we were really one of the first geothermal controls in the market. A lot of people still tend to use set point controls in geothermal, but these are truly dedicated geothermal controls. This gives you either geothermal or solar capabilities. That's based on your application. So you'll see the connectors on the bottom of the ECO1000. They're color-coded in key terminals. So, for instance, the blue terminal won't be able to plug into the red and the red into the blue. And there's no cross wiring for this. It has extra set points built in. This has a fault indicator and an automatic heat-cool changeover. So we do have onboard graphing on the ECO1000 just because we have a full graphic display. And we also have brownout detection on this control. And that just protects the circuitry if the power is not as good in some of the rural areas that we quickly found out in. So there's two modules that you can use with the ECO1000. The EXP100, this expands the capabilities of your heat pumps depending on your application. It has 2 extra dry contacts built into it. So you can wire whatever voltage you want into or out of the module. You just simply plug an EXP100 or an EXP300 with a 32-pin connector to the ECO1000 control. So the EXP300, this has 2 wet contacts built onto it. So you would power up the EXP300 with 120 volt. And then you can wire your pumps directly into the expansion module. So it just allows you to easily wire up pumps without doing a bunch of interconnections or junction boxes. So the expansion modules can be used for extra set points. So if you wanted to run a hot tub or a pool, for example, you would just add on one of these EXP 100s or 300s to your main control. So one thing to keep in mind with the ECO1000 also is you do have a dual tank setup, so you can do a heating and a cooling tank or a single tank situation. With this user interface, it shows you just a bit of a different nomenclature than our CPU 1000 boiler control. So we would show a tank temperature. If you're running a 2-tank system, it would once again show you a hot tank and a cool tank. It has your targets, your outdoor temperature, your set points. It shows you a heat demand or a cool demand, whether there's a fault in your system also, and your set points or warm weather or cold weather shutdown. This little system function screen, this shows you what is on or what is off along with the number of cycles. So with the ECO1000 you have to shift between 2 different screens, but with the ECO550 it shows you all of these, the system function screen and the system status screen on the main status screen of that new geothermal control. So with the Geo application, we can do up to 14 stages of on-off or 7 2-stage compressors. So with that, you would need 6 EXP100s. So the ECO1000 is expandable. That's 2 stages. And then every expansion module has 2 more stages. So this is the big difference between our 2 controls, is that the ECO550 is not an expandable, but a lot of the time for your applications and the jobs out there, you will really only need an ECO550 instead of the ECO1000 now. So this can be used for chillers. It doesn't necessarily have to be using heat pumps. With this illustration, it's just showing a single tank and then out to your load. So basically a single tank with a single heat pump. It can control a backup heat source. A few different options you can do that is with tank or outdoor temperature. So there are some backup options you can choose for this control. So you can also add on a zone 500 to both controls fairly easily. They're a little bit different. The zone control will connect with a 32-pin connector onto the ECO1000 control, but with an ECO-0550 control, it's pretty simple to wire up. So you would just wire up the to your hot and cold demands from the zone control to the ECO-0550 control. So you get some advantages of connecting the zone to the geothermal control. So this can work really independently of our 1000 controls, or it can be used as a standalone zone control. So this can connect with the ECO1000 or CPU1000 with that 32-pin connector. So it can control up to 4 zones. So that can be either zone pumps or zone valves. It has 2 TT contacts on the top. There's one for heating and one for cooling. And then also there's a system pump output. This can be expandable up to 36 zones. It has a zone post-purge pump or valve control. So if you do connect it with an ECO1000 with the 32-pin connector, the heat pump control, you can actually choose if you want a heating zone or a cooling zone. If it's in cold weather shutdown, the heating zones will be locked out. If it's in warm weather shutdown, the cooling zones will be locked out, and we call this zone protection, so you're not sending heating water to your cooling zone and vice versa. So here's more of a wiring view of the control. So your input power is 120 volt, number 1, down on the bottom. And also your zone power, 24 for valves or 120 for pumps. Number 2 is your 24 volt power outputs for thermostats in the top. So you could power up your thermostats, especially the THM100 thermostats quite easily. Number 3, there's 4 zones. So you have your zone 1, 2, 3, 4 is where you'd wire it up, and then 2 of your wires from, let's say, your THM100 could plug into number 5 and 6, and then 2 wires over to your 13, 14, so your power side. And then number 4, this is where your two demand outputs are for heating and cooling. So it's dip switch selectable in the back, whether you want a high temp demand or a low temp demand zone. You can set up different priorities, so this is a big option for the HBX zone control. So you can do a heating zone or a cooling zone priority. You can have a sequential priority, so 1 will take priority over 2, 3, 4, or 2 would take priority over 3 and 4. You can have zone 1 and 2 prioritize over 3 and 4. Or if you had more than 4 zones and you had 2 or more zone 500s connected to each other, you can select which module you want to prioritize over another module. So here's just a wiring diagram. So this shows basically the wiring of a ECO-0550 to a zone 500, because this will be a good option for a lot of applications out there. So what you're doing is you're taking your heating and cooling demand outputs on the top of the zone control in 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're connecting that to number 1 and 2 on your ECO-0550 control. So it is pretty easy to wire up in that sense. So that's kind of it for the geothermal, the ECO-0550, and I just, like I say, wanted to give you more of an idea of the difference between the two controls and which ones you're going to choose. A couple of things we can do is we can, if people have any questions, we can definitely discuss those. or you know, if anybody had anything to add, we can kind of have an open discussion. You know, I kind of set the webinar from 10 to 10:30, so we have about 10 minutes here. Does anybody have any questions? Kind of next on the presentation that I just had at the bottom of it is our wireless outdoor sensor. That is something I can go over really quickly if you'd like. You know, our wireless sensor is just a wireless outdoor sensor, so you're able to connect this to any control that uses a thermistor input. So you can connect it to boilers, you can connect it to thermostats, you can connect it to other controls. We have a demo box that we have a TechMar control, an HBX control, and one outdoor sensor that shows the exact same temperature. So it's showing that it works with basically anything. And the way we're able to do that is have different thermistor options built into the control. So we have 500 ohm, a 5K, 10K, or 20K thermistor curves built in. So this is really good for retrofit applications. It's good for new installations. Let's say somebody forgot to run wires, or they can't place the outdoor sensor on the north-facing wall. Or we get people who don't want to have an outdoor sensor on the side of their house. So they can put this on a fence, on a tree, anything on a north-facing wall. So it's got really good range, 2.4 gigahertz. The minimum life battery is at least 2 years for this. Once again, some of the benefits are works with any control, not just an HBX. Simple to install, easy to pair. You have a battery life indicator, and you also have a signal strength indicator, so you know if your signal strength is good or not. And then our thermostats, we just have the THM100, a non-programmable, single heat or single cool thermostat, so a true PID thermostat. We also have the THM200, which is a 5 and 2 day programming. This is 3-stage thermostat, so you can run 3 stages: 2 heat, 1 cool, 1 heat, 2 cool, 2 heat, a single cool, or even a cool with a fan control. All of our thermostats come with a 10-foot thermistor, so you can do a little bit of three different modes that you can set up within the thermostat. So one is a room, so you can use the thermistor that's in the thermostat. You can set it up for floor sensing, so this would use the thermistor when you set it up with the included 10-foot thermistor if you're running it into the slab. Or you can do it dual mode, so it's using both the floor and the thermostat thermistors to sense the temperatures for both of those locations. Simple to wire up. Back plate, you mount it on the wall, pull your wires through the hole, mount it to the connectors, and pretty much slide the front plate onto the back plate. And then a couple of things we're working on. So we're just finishing up a phone app. So this is basically for our agents or contractors if they are used to TechMar controls and they wanted to do basically a comparison. So let's say you had a 256 control, and then it would show you the HBX equivalent control. This is showing a picture of the ORC 100. Has an information sheet and then also a link to the manual. And then we have the HBX Designer software. What we're going to be doing is we're working on this currently to make it a web-based designer software, so you don't have to download a program to your computer. You would be able to download this, just basically use it straight from our website. So there's a couple of benefits with that. So that's kind of what we're working on, and then we're working on some wireless thermostat and wireless zoning controls. Hopefully that'll be out by the end of the year. That's currently being worked on also. And then our Snow 550 control should be out fairly quickly. We're just finishing the testing phase on that one, and then we'll get it out, and that's going to be replacing our Snow 500 control. Updated enclosure, new user interface, 3-button instead of a dial, so really easy to program, really easy to use, and some more, I guess, safety features, so there's less installation errors as we find with our snow control. That's kind of the biggest issue that we have is installation. So that's it. That's the ECO-0550 and a little bit of the other products. Anybody have any questions? If not, we are having I believe it's a CPU 550 and then a Zone 500 control webinar in the next few weeks, so stay tuned to those and join up if you have time. So thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.